Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you guys like that little intro I did right there. In this video, we're going to be building a game and we're going to be using two things, Pygame and Python. Nah, not that Python, this Python. Anyways, what even is Python? Well, Python is a high-level versatile programming language. It is known for simplicity and readability, as you can see here. This is Wikipedia, trust it. Yeah, and this is what the syntax looks like. This is merge sort, and Python was developed back in the 1980s by Guido van Rossum. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If not, my mistake, bro. But yeah, it is a very versatile programming language. It is a successor to the ABC programming language, and it was first released in 1991 with 0.9.0 as its first version. So as you can see here from the Stack Overflow chart, it is extremely popular. So odds are you know it, you've seen it, your grandma's used it before. Maybe not that last one, but yeah. We're also going to be using Pygame, and this is just a set of Python modules designed for writing games. So you might be thinking, what got the inspiration to come up with the idea to code Squid Game using Python? And just as a disclosure, this is not going to be a full-fledged Squid Game, but Squid Game. Interesting. But we're going to learn how to utilize Python and also learn some things about Pygame, and I thought this was a great opportunity to learn both. Plus, think of how cool it would be to tell your friends, yo bro, I just coded Squid Game. Anyways, to get started, you're going to want to go over to the Python website and download the latest version of Python. This will be your setup right here. Ensure that these boxes are selected, and then you're going to want to turn into Hackerman. Just kidding. All you're going to need to do is go to your favorite text editor or IDE and enter this command right here. Yeah, so while that is getting installed, should be quick, let's talk about Pygame. Pygame is a set of Python modules, as I said before, designed for writing games. It is written on top of the excellent STL library. This is STL right here. This allows you to create fully featured games and multimedia programs in the Python language. Okay, friendly snakes, let's get started. We're going to start with imports and initialization. As you can see here, we're importing Pygame, random, and time. This is what each of those mean. Next, we will initialize Pygame modules, which is necessary before using any of its features. So let's do that. I've also realized that you can either initialize the modules individually, or you can just go ahead and call pygame.init initialize all the imported modules, and it is very convenient, so yeah. So our next step is going to be the screen setup, and as you can see here, we have a width, we have a height, we have some values assigned to those, and we also initialize the display and set that to the width and height above, and that's going to be our screen. And we also set a caption up top, and all that caption is just the title of our window. Next, we're gonna initialize some color values. So we have green, we have red, we have white, and each of those are just the RGB values that we're gonna use in our game. And then we're gonna initialize the clock. So we're gonna use pygame.time.clock and pass that to our clock variable. Now all this does is really manage the frame rate, ensuring that the game runs smoothly at a constant speed. Yeah, that's FPS I believe, but next we're going to create some game objects, and this right here, as you can see, we have the player, the finish line, the light color, the is moving. We're going to check if the light is changed and the duration of that, and each of those are assigning some values. So the player and the finish line are just going to be rectangles, but all rectangles are equal and important. Anyways, so as you can see here, we're giving this a position and a size on the game board, you can call it, and this is just the shapes for the player and the finish line. So the player is gonna be a small blue rectangle, and the finish line is just a thin black rectangle, and that's gonna represent our finish line. Okay, so each of those values, we're giving the light color. So start off with green, is moving is going to be false because you're not moving when you're starting, and we're going to assign the time and a random value for the light duration. So this is going to be between 2 and 5 seconds. That's all that really is. So what's a game without any text? I need to know when I win or I lose, and that's what I'm gonna do right now. So I'm gonna initialize the font. I'm gonna set that to 72, and then we're gonna initialize the game over text and the win text. So when the game is over, I'm gonna be showing a game over text, and that's gonna be red. danger, and the other color is gonna be green for the win text. So the final thing we're gonna do is create a rectangle at the center of the screen, and we're gonna do that by centering that by the width and the height. As you can see here, we're dividing that by 2. I center half in both of those, so this is going to position the center of the rectangle at the specified coordinates, and the width and the height are dimensions that were already defined, so we're cool with that. But when we half them, this is going to represent the center of the screen, and this is to ensure that the game over text is displayed exactly in the middle. So let's use this video for instance. If I would have won the game or I would have lost, it would center the text just like this. Yeah, so at some point I'm gonna need to restart the game, and that is just gonna place everything back to its initial state. So the player, the light color, the moving state, and the any other value that would have really defined essentially. So I'm gonna create a new function called reset game, and that's gonna place back the x and y coordinates of the player in the initial state, as well as set the color back to green and set is moving to false, so the player will be stationary. I'm just gonna return true for that. Right, so we have a function that defines the initial state for all of our player condition and the game condition as well. So next up, we're gonna need to focus on the game state itself. So we have 2 variables that we want to define. We're gonna define 2 variables called running and game active, and we're gonna set both of those to true. So running, all running does is basically just track if the game window is open, and the game active variable is just gonna track if the game is in progress. Next, we're gonna create our main game loop. Yeah, so this is also part of what I've discovered. Most games usually have a running loop, and that is just to run until our running variable is set to false. But yeah, what matters is what we do inside of this loop, and in this loop we're gonna manage a event handling portion and also the player movement. So all this really does is there is gonna be 2 things. There's gonna be a quit event and a key down event that we're keeping track of right here. So if it is that the type is a quit, we set running to false, and that would have closed the window. In the key down event, we're gonna restart the game if the player clicks the R key on the keyboard. So great, so we have a state in which we can restart the game based on a keyboard entry, and that's something I found pretty fun while learning how to do this. So as I said, we're gonna also keep track of the player movement, and that's gonna be done using the pygame.key.getPress, and we're gonna assign that to a keys variable, and we're gonna set is moving to false initially, of course. So what we're gonna do next is gonna check what key the player is hitting, and in this case we're looking for the right arrow key. So if the right arrow key is pressed, then we're gonna move the player 5 points over or 5 movements over. Not sure what they call it exactly, but yeah, this is gonna set the x coordinate for the player to 5, so it's gonna move across the screen, and then we're gonna set is moving to true. So our next section is gonna be the game logic. So what we're gonna do is gonna check the light color. If it is red and is moving is set to true, then we're gonna assign false to game active, and we're gonna use screen.blit, and that's gonna pass in the game over text as well as the text rect. So we also want to track if the game would have ended if the player moves during the red light portion, and that's what we're gonna use right here. So yeah, what that means is we're gonna need to perform a check, and as you can see, we have an if statement. I'm gonna do player.colliderRect, colliderRect, and we're gonna pass in the finish line into the value right here. The game active is gonna be false once more, and the screen.blit value is gonna be the win text and the text rectangle. So these cover the 2 conditions. So the first one ends the game if the player would have moved during the red light state, and the second function or the second statement right here is supposed to end the game if the player reaches the finish line. Okay, so we're almost through with it. If you do like the video so far, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe if you want to see more like this or me continue any series like this. And let me know what you think of this video in the comment section below. Anyways, let's continue. So we're gonna need to manage the light color change. So we're gonna get the current time, and we're gonna do some maths right here. So we're gonna do the current time minus the last light change. If that is greater than the light duration, then we're gonna do this bit of calculation right here. So all this does is really changes the light color after a random duration of 2 to 5 seconds. That's it. Now we're gonna do are we going to focus on the display or the drawing that we need to do. Now, you'd have probably utilized some framework before that utilizes some drawing and a canvas kind of deal. This is something similar to that. It draws the light indicator on the player and the finish line on the screen. So we need to render all of this. This is essentially what this captures. Next up, we're gonna do the player display flip, and we're gonna do the clock tick, and we're gonna set that to 60 seconds. Great. So one more thing before we complete this, we're gonna need to quit Pygame, and that is where this statement comes in. That's it. So yeah, this exits the game. That being said, let's run this and see what it looks like. Look at this masterpiece. Okay, so this is the game in which we have created. Yeah, so I know it looks simple, but we have done a lot in this. As you can see here, we got that person doing the red light, green light. We got that character who is moving across the board, and we got a objective. They should get to that line right there. So as you can see, as we move our way over, if we end up moving on red, the game ends, as you can see right here. But if we restart and move ahead while it's green and make ourselves to the finish line, we win the game, and that's it. Now, let me know if you want us to make a more complex version of this. That is definitely something I want to explore, as I'm also learning Pygame. So I think this would be a fun interactive stuff that we can, enjoy together. If you do like this video, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up. And if you want to see more like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe